think of when you hear the term low-carb pizza? Automatically you think, ooh, flat disc, little bit of sauce, little bit of cheese. Oh, here's your pizza. Today I'm going to teach you how to make low-carb pizza, but with traditional fluffy crust. It is yummy. So let's get to it. So first thing, preheat your oven to 100 degrees. This is going to be where we let the pizza dough rise. This particular crust will have yeast in it because we want fluffy pizza, not flat pizza. So after you preheat it, you're going to line your pizza dish with parchment paper. And the way I do this is I just take a pencil and I trace around the pizza pan, but I don't trace around the rim of it. I stick my pencil underneath and then trace around the bottom of the pan. That way I get a more precise measuring. If you're going around the rim, it's going to be wider than the bottom. Then after you trace it, all you have to do is cut along the line of the circle. You put it on the bottom of your pizza pan. Easy peasy. Next, we're going to work on our crust. You're going to need 1 cup almond flour, 1 cup Vital Wheat gluten, 1 cup garbanzo flour, and I've got these all mixed together in here. Put it in a medium mixing bowl. Then you're going to need a teaspoon garlic powder and a teaspoon onion powder. Mix those in there. 2 tablespoons of instant dry yeast. Make sure it is instant. Instant works differently than the other kinds. 1 teaspoon salt. And a 1/4 cup grated Parmesan. Not the canned stuff. Right off the block. Grated Parmesan. Then you're going to whisk this all together just until all the lumps of the almond flour are out. Once you've whisked all of your dry ingredients, then we're going to move on to our wet ingredients. You're going to need a standing mixer for this. So you're going to need 1 cup of warm water. Make sure it's warm, not cold, not hot, just warm to the touch. 3 tablespoons of honey. Make sure you grease your dish or measuring spoons that you use for honey. That way it slides right out and you don't have to worry about sticky messes. 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And 1 large room temperature egg. Again, make sure it is room temperature. You know my spill about dough being the right temperature for it to rise properly. I cannot emphasize that enough. I've messed up recipes before by not having it the right temperature and then it didn't rise, and yeah, not a good deal. So, room temperature. Then after you've gotten your wet ingredients there, you're going to take your dry ingredients, just whisk it one more time just to give it a nice little fluff up. Add it to your wet ingredients. Slowly. We don't want any flour messes everywhere. Then you're going to put this on low for 15 seconds, just until all the ingredients are wet. So 15 seconds is good. Once it's been on low for 15 seconds, scrape your paddle down if needed. Scrape all the sides down. Make sure everything gets pushed to the center. This is where I like to change out to my dough hook. If you don't have a dough hook, it's fine. It'll work just fine. I like the dough hooks. Make your dough nice and fluffy. So put that in there. Then you're going to put it on high for 3 minutes to fluff the dough good. Once that's mixed for 3 minutes and you got some nice elasticy dough in there, scrape down all the sides again. Then we're going to press our dough into our pizza pan. Scrape that onto the center of your baking pan, your pizza pan. Then spray your hands with some oil. This is so it does not stick to you. The dough is slightly sticky. It's supposed to be that way. So that means that you've got it elasticy. I can't say that word. Elasticy enough. Then you're going to press the dough till it reaches the edges of the entire pan. Make sure it's evenly pressed. Otherwise, you'll have one side that comes out thick and another side that is thin, and we don't want that because one side will cook faster than the other. So make sure that you press it all the way to the edges, nice and even. If your hands start feeling like they're sticking to the dough, just spray them again. Sounds really strange, but an easy way to get this to where it's even is just to kind of wiggle your fingers up and down as you're pushing the dough out. It sounds weird, but it works for some reason. So up and down as you're spreading that dough out. You don't want to do this with a rolling pin because the dough is sticky. So it really wouldn't work very well with the rolling pin. Plus, you're inside of a pan, and it wouldn't work well with the rolling pin, most likely. You can try it if you want to, but most likely it's not going to work well. So just use the fingers. It might take a little longer for you, but you know what? It's all right. Cooking is a work of art. Work of art takes time. Once you've finished all pressing that out, then you're going to spray some plastic wrap, just lightly. You don't need it drenched. Cover your dough, put it in your 100-degree preheated oven, and let it rise for 20 minutes. Once your dough's risen, remove it from the oven, keep it covered, and preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Your dough should have risen just right up to the rim of the pizza pan. You don't want it any higher than that. You don't want it any flatter than that because you want a fluffy crust on your pizza. So just about right up to there. While that's preheating, make sure you keep your dough covered. Once it's all preheated, put your dough back into the oven at 400 degrees and bake for 10 minutes. While that's cooking, we're going to get all of our toppings together. Now you can put any topping you want on this pizza, but for this particular recipe, we are doing a chicken taco pizza. Yummy, yummy, yummy. So what you're going to need, first off, you're going to preheat 2 tablespoons of oil in a large 12-inch skillet. While that's preheating, you're going to chop some chicken, about a half to 1 pound, generally 1 to 2 chicken breasts, depending on how big they are and how much meat you want on your pizza. I just like a little bit of a scatter of some meat since we're going to be having veggies also on it. So just a little bit of meat, and you're going to cut the chicken breasts into very small pieces, about ½ inch. You just want them real lightly scattered on there. You don't want any huge, massive hunks of chicken, just little small pieces. So you cut it in half. You slice each half in half again. Then we turn it over on its side. And we slice it into very small pieces. Once your chicken's all sliced, you're going to add it to your skillet. And let your chicken cook for about 5 minutes, just until it's all white on the outside and there's no pink at all. We want it fully cooked. While it's cooking, you're going to chop your vegetables. You're going to need half of a red bell pepper, half of a yellow bell pepper, half of a red onion, about 1 to 2 cups of baby spinach or whatever type of lettuce you want, and about a ½ cup of black olives. So first off, we're going to chop the bell peppers. The red bell peppers, what we're chopping first. Chop them into very thin strips. We don't want any humongous hunks of pepper. Make sure you remove all that white seed and core, because that, again, will give you bitter flavor. So all that white seed and core, chop it off. When I cut the strips, I usually cut them in small strips, and then I cut the strips in half again. So they're kind of a shorter strip. Going to do the same thing with your yellow bell pepper. Thin strips. Remember, when you are using a cutting board, if you are using the same cutting board as your meat, make sure you wash it thoroughly so you do not cross-contaminate your meat and vegetables. I like to use a completely separate slicing mat rather than the same. But if you don't have 2 different cutting boards or 2 different slicing mats, then make sure you thoroughly wash your cutting board. In strips, cut those strips in half again, just like we did with the red ones. Make sure to get out all the core and seeds, just like with the red bell peppers. Make sure you keep checking on your chicken. Once you see your chicken turning a little bit white around the edges, make sure you stir it. You don't want it browning on one side and then not getting done on the other. We're going to chop our onion. Make sure you remove the outer layer of skin. Lay the flat side down. You always want to make sure when you're chopping vegetables that you create a flat side so that you can set it flat. You do not want to cut rounded objects because they can roll off and your fingers can roll along with it. So make sure they're flat. So you're going to cut this into very, very thin strips. Now you can either leave them in the strips if you like them in the strips. I like them smaller because my son has a thing with textures, especially onions. So I chop them smaller. So after I chop them into strips, I chop them again just into little tiny pieces. Once everything's chopped and our chicken's done cooking, now we're going to assemble our pizza. First, check your chicken pieces, make sure there is no pink, and make sure they're small enough. Mine are a little bit too big, so I'm going to chop them a little bit smaller. Not so small you can't taste, but small. Make sure that you have not turned your oven off. That still needs to stay at 400 degrees because you'll be popping that back in for a few minutes once you get all the toppings on. So once your chicken's all chopped, once your vegetables all chopped, then we get to assemble our pizza. Now this is a taco pizza, so I don't use just regular pizza sauce. I use salsa. I use anywhere from 1 to 2 cups, probably closer to 1 cup. It all depends on how saucy you like your pizza. I like it enough to cover the crust, just a thin layer. So about 1 cup is what I do. I poured a little bit more than 1 cup in here, so I probably won't use it all. After you got a nice thin layer of sauce, we're going to put some cheese. Now again, this is a taco pizza, so I don't just use strictly mozzarella cheese. I do a combination of mozzarella and Colby. This is all to your taste and all to your discretion. If you don't like Colby or mozzarella, you can do whatever type of shredded cheese you want. It's generally around a cup, cup and a half, again, depending on how much cheese you like. My family and I like cheese. Not enough to make it sloppy, but we like our cheese. So roughly about a cup or so. So just sprinkle it all the way across the top of your pizza. After you get the cheese, you're going to top it with your baby spinach, around 2 cups, or whatever type of lettuce you want. Just sprinkle it across there. You don't want a lot of lettuce, just a light. You don't want a lot of spinach, just a light. After you've got your cheese and your spinach, now we're going to put in our chicken. Just sprinkle the chicken across, just until it fills up the pizza. You put your desired amount. If you feel that you've cooked up too much, you don't have to use it all. Once your chicken's on, you're going to lightly sprinkle your bell peppers, just a light amount. All this, the amount of the vegetables and the amount of meat, it's all according to your taste. Everybody is different. After the bell peppers, just a thin amount of onions. You want to go pretty light on the onions unless you're a heavy-duty onion lover. Make sure every time after you handle onions, you make sure you wash your hands really good because you don't want to forget you've had onions and then rub your eye or touch something else and something else starts smelling like onions or your eyeballs burning. Then after you're done with your onions, we're going to do some sliced olives, roughly about a half cup. Just a light amount. This is looking yummy. After you got all your toppings on, you're going to pop it in the oven at that 400 degrees temperature and cook it for 10 more minutes. Once your pizza's done, take it out of the oven, set it on your countertop to cool, and let it sit for at least 10 minutes before you slice it. And it smells so yummy. Once you've let it rest for a few minutes, cut yourself a nice healthy slice, eat and enjoy it. I will warn you though, the crust is made with garbanzo flour, or chickpea flour as it's also known, and almond flour. So the crust has protein in it. So a little piece goes a long way. I will just let you know that. It fills you up quick, but it is so good. Yes, perfection. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button. Leave me a comment if you'd like. Let me know if there's any other recipes that you'd like to learn how to make without using white flour and white sugar. And as always, until I see you again next week, keep cooking.